Good morning. This is Algebra 1, Lesson 2. Algebra 1, Lesson 2. In order to get through this lesson, we really need to be able to identify a bunch of new terms. So we're just going to dive right in. The first one is the term variable. Now, if you just think about that word, it means it's going to have change to it. So we use a letter normally, sometimes we use some symbols, used to represent an unknown number. So in an equation, if we don't know what the number is, or maybe if it changes, then we're going to use a variable. The next word is constant. Well, it's just that, a number whose value will not change. So normally it's just like a number, like 4 or 17. Those are numbers. That value is not going to change. So we just have one here that we're going to look at real quick. Pretty easy, hopefully, to identify. The variable in this case is going to be the x, and the constant in this case is going to be the 4. Some more terms here. The next term is factor or factors. Numbers or variables that are being multiplied. It's probably something you've learned before. A factor times a factor, things like that. So it's numbers or variables that are being multiplied. The coefficient is the number part of a product that has a variable. So notice here, this is how we might see it normally, but we're going to start looking at them here on the right without the dots in there, because mathematicians would rather write less if we can get away with that. So if we look here at the factors, I'm wearing a highlighter, factors, well, all 3 of these are factors because they're all 3 multiplying. However, the only one that's a coefficient is going to be the number part, which is this number 4. So all 3 of these would be coefficients, but all 3 of these would be factors. The only coefficient would be the number 4. Also, these 2 would be variables, and this one is also a constant. The next term we're going to talk about is term or terms. And they are parts of an expression separated by plus signs or minus signs. So they're separated by plus signs or minus signs. Okay? So I'm just going to give you a few examples of what something that is just simply one term would look like. That one we just had over there, 4xy, that's an example of simply just one term. Notice there's no plus signs or minus signs in there. Another example would be x plus 2. That'd be just one term because they're being grouped together with those parentheses. Just a number, maybe like 17. That would be just a single one term. And also fractions involving variables and things like that. Maybe something like this, x over 3 plus 2. Even though it does have a plus sign in there, it's actually just one term because this division bar right here is actually a grouping symbol. It's saying group all this together. Okay, so this is just one term. It's a little bit confusing because it does have a plus sign in there, but this is just one term. Same with this one, a little bit confusing, but it's just one term. So then maybe what are some examples of what 2 terms would look like? Well, when we did earlier, x plus 4. Notice there are two terms, and it's separated there with a minus sign. Maybe another example here would be 3x minus 17 QRZ. Again, two terms. 1, 2. One more just for good measure. X squared minus 3x. Again, two terms. 1, 2, separated right there with the minus sign. So some examples of three terms would be x plus y minus 7. Notice here we have two plus or minus signs, 1 plus, 1 minus. So maybe 1, 2, 3 terms. Now maybe just one more example just to save us some time here. Get the pin. X squared plus 2x plus 1. Again, 1, 2, 3 terms, 2 plus signs. Okay. So let's go ahead and do some examples. That's pretty much the lesson. We're just going to do some examples, make sure you're understanding how to do each of these. So your instructions are to identify the constant and variables in each expression. So we're looking for constants and we're looking for variables. So let's just go with constants are going to be red, variables will be black. So constants would be things that wouldn't change. Well, 65 is always 65. And also 12 doesn't change. So if we wanted to write out those constants, so let's say constants would be 65 and 12. The variables then is going to be Q, R, S, and X. Those are those variables here. Q, R, S, and X. Those are represented by letters or some kind of symbol. For this next one here, if we're looking at constants, well, 4 is a number I recognize. That 71 is a number I recognize. Things that might change would be that G, the H, the Y, and the Z. So let's say constants. Constants would be 4 and 71. The variables will be G, H, Y, and Z. Next set of instructions is identify the factors and coefficients in each expression. Alright, so factors would be things that are multiplying together. Factors that are multiplying together. So let's just say factors are going to be highlighted in black, and coefficients will be highlighted in red. So factors, numbers are multiplying together. Well, this number is multiplying with that, and that, and that, those variables. So that means they're all factors, but the only coefficient is going to be the number part of that, the 17. So let's say factor would be 17, D, E, and F, and the coefficient would just be simply 17. For letter D, that is a UV over 4, in case you're having a hard time reading my handwriting there. The factors would be U, V, and we just see a 4, but we notice that it's on the denominator. So if we're going to write a 4 in the denominator, that'd be like a 1/4. A little bit tricky, but I think you can get that. And then the coefficient then would just be the number part of that, the number factor, which is simply 1/4. One more on this one here. The factors here for number f, which is just ABC, would just be A, B, and C. The coefficient would be the number part. Now as we look at this, I don't see any numbers, but as we think back to the things we've learned before, there is actually an unwritten number 1 out in front of this. That was really sloppy. A number 1 out in front of this. Because 1 times A times B times C would be the same thing as A times B times C. So the coefficient on this one is actually going to be a number 1, even though you don't see anything there. 2 more problems. It just says identify the terms of each expression. So we're just trying to identify the terms. So we're looking for plus and minus signs. I see a plus or a minus sign here and here. So then it's going to be 1, 2, 3 terms. So those 3 terms are going to be 8v is the first one. The next one is going to be 17yz. The last one is going to be 63b over 4gh. Those are the terms. Alright, now we're going to go here to h, the last problem. Looking for plus and minus signs. If I start at right to left, oh, here's a minus sign. Here's a plus sign. And I see this plus sign up here, but I'm immediately reminded of what we talked about earlier. Since this is inside a set of parentheses and also involved in division, this whole thing right here is going to be 1 term. So again, we're going to have 3 terms. 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to write those terms out. The first one's going to be that 4 plus 2x over 38q. The next term is that 18s. And the last term there is the 47jkl. Alright. That just brings us then to our homework. Our homework is going to be all of them with the 2 next to it, meaning the ones that are directly from this lesson. I'd also like you to do all of them from the last lesson, meaning the ones that have the 1 next to it. And then you can go through and pick 4 more of your choice. I believe that will be a total of 20. So all of them with a 2, all of them with a 1, and then 4 more of your choice. Good luck.